So, last week I got the opportunity to go to the Race of Champions in Sweden, where I went there to compete in the eROC World Finals, and from there got to compete in the Nations Cup against Sebastian Vettel and Mick Schumacher.
Finished third in the F1 Esports Championship last year. Here comes Vettel over the hill towards the line. Oh, it's tight!
Hey everyone, I hope you're doing well. I'm Lucas and welcome back to what is going to be my Race of Champions sort of debrief video, where I just go through the entire week because it was probably one of the best weeks of my life and I really want to just go through it with you guys. So thank you for tuning in, and yeah, I mean, I hope to give you a sort of an insight as to how it all panned out, share the experience with you guys, and yeah, without me rambling on for 15 minutes before I even get started, I'm going to jump into the video. So, quickly, an introduction to eROC. Now, what is eROC? eROC is basically the virtual Race of Champions where you had to qualify from whatever route that was. For me, I had to qualify through like the open qualifier, so I had to do different tournaments and basically win your way all the way through. So yeah, the eROC World Final, there are 4 finalists, which was Jarno Opmeer, James Baldwin, Martin Palm, and myself. We were the 4 finalists of the eROC in 2022, and that meant that we got to go to Sweden, to Peter Havsbad, which is where the Race of Champions was being held, to compete in the eROC World Final, and that was the primary purpose of us going there, which was such an immense privilege. You know, a huge just thanks to Race of Champions for, you know, having had such a great experience all week, and it was something I'll remember for the rest of my life. So big thanks to them. It was just so cool to do all of that. And yeah, so how did eROC work? So eROC basically was yeah, there are 4 drivers, and the way the winner is determined is there's a sort of, to start off between the 4 drivers, there is a point system. So 12 points can be won on the sim, and 12 points can be won through driving a real life lap in a real car around the Race of Champions circuit, which was on snow and ice this year, obviously, as you'll probably see throughout this video. And basically, the way you accumulated these points is you drove an assessment lap in a real car, which was a Polaris, around the Race of Champions track, and you could get up to 12 points, judged by 3 judges who we'll get to later. And you could, yeah, get 4 points for 3 different sections, and the more points you get, the better it is. And on the sim, you race your opponents, so for me that would have been Martin, Jarno and James. You race them twice, you can get a maximum of 2 points for winning 1 race, and 1 point for losing a race. And that is how you get your points. So the way it works out is the 2 drivers who get the highest points out of the 4 then compete directly against each other in the eROC final to determine the eROC champion 2022, and then those 2 drivers then get to represent Team eROC in the Nations Cup of Race of Champions, which is absolutely mind-blowing. Just an opportunity that I don't think many of us would ever expect to get in our lifetime, and it's something that you know, was such a special thing to be sort of you know, in contention for. So that is how it works, and without further ado, let's get into how the week panned out. So Tuesday, which I believe was the day we arrived to Sweden. I'd never been to Sweden before, and honestly, it's from someone that comes from Scotland, it's bloody freezing. It's really cold in Sweden, that is for sure. So yeah, that was pretty cool, but yeah, what a beautiful country as well. Like, just, I've never seen so much snow probably like in my entire life combined up until that week there, because as I record this is the Thursday the week after. So yeah, just such a really nice place, such a cool experience. And yeah, the Race of Champions was being held at Peter Havsbad, which is basically yeah, it's like a sort of a resort, if that makes sense. And the racetrack itself was on a beach slash on the water, on ice, out the back of where the hotel was. So you were right there, right in the action, and it was really, really cool. Everything was in the one place, so that was really cool. So yeah, headed there on the Tuesday, managed to yeah, meet Team eROC, which was, you know, all the 4 drivers. So I hadn't saw Jarno and James since, I think it was late 2019. I think. So yeah, it was good to catch up with the guys, sort of to see how everyone was doing, and it was yeah, just great to sort of then we just sort of in the evening we had dinner, we sort of learned the plan for the week roughly, sort of, so we had a rough idea of what we're doing. And then yeah, I mean, I basically didn't have almost any sleep for the whole day. I was travelling so long, so I was pretty tired by the end of Tuesday, but Wednesday is when the action all kicked off. So going to Wednesday now, this is a day that I'd kind of been waiting for such a long time. So going into the Race of Champions, obviously there's the sim racing element, which is something I'm very familiar with, being, you know, an F1 esports driver and competing in sim racing professionally for over 2.5 years now at a very high level. But in terms of real life experience, I used to do karting when I was younger from 2010 to 2015, had to stop that due to, you know, how expensive it is, because, you know, that's often the case these days. But in terms of actually driving a proper car, taking away driving experiences, which, I mean, let's be honest, they're not exactly the most useful thing to learn how to drive a car absolutely rapid. I drove a BMW M3 around Silverstone for 20 minutes at the beginning of 2019. That's it. That's the only real world experience I had coming into this. So, due to that limited experience, I really came into this with a very, basically not expecting to know anything. I started from zero. That was my mentality. I didn't want to come in with any pre-existing idea of how things worked. Sorry. So just had to start from scratch and learn from there. So Wednesday was a day where I got to drive for quite a bit more than 20 minutes, which is something I'd been desperate to do basically my whole life. So a few minutes from the hotel, a few minutes drive, there was a giant frozen lake, which is where there were Porsche 911s and Porsche Taycans there for us to be driving. So all 4 of us eROC drivers were going to get to drive these cars. Now, there was a slalom course on the ice, where, as it sort of sounds, it's a slalom, and then there was also a much bigger, sort of effectively a full track, where it was long sweeping bends, much more variety in the corner types, and a lot more challenging in a respect. So basically, we got to drive Porsche 911s and Porsche Taycans around these tracks, and yeah, it was so much learned in that, you know, that bit of time during that day. And it was just such an immense experience. I mean, I was in the car with Jarno Opmere, which I'm quite sure everybody knows who Jarno is. And yes, and James and Martin were in the other car. So, yeah, it was just such a cool experience. Even just getting to watch Jarno, because Jarno is a bloody good driver, as we know. But I mean, in the real car, he was very switched on from the very beginning. Had a very good technique, and even just watching him actually in the car, you could learn quite a lot. So it was really useful to be in the passenger seat with him and then get to take a drive myself, and it was such a cool experience because you just had to learn so much so quickly. I mean, as I say, I felt like I was starting from zero, so just learning how to drift, learning how to sort of understand how little grip there is on snow and ice. Like, I know it sounds like a really dumb thing to say, but you just have to constantly underdrive, especially in the Porsche 911s and the Taycans, where they're sort of road cars with sort of studded tyres. They're not race cars. So yeah, it was such a cool experience, learning how to use 4-wheel drive, which is something I don't think I mastered the whole time I was in there in Sweden. It was such a challenging experience to do, but nonetheless I enjoyed every moment of that day, finally getting to drive some real cars, an experience that, you know, stick in the memory, and it was so much fun. So yeah, that was Wednesday, and yeah, going on to Thursday, I believe we got to do some sim practice on the simulator in preparation, driving all the cars we would drive, learning the track, in preparation for the eROC World Final, which was on the Friday. So did some sim practice on the Thursday, but more crucially on the Thursday, the thing that made probably the biggest difference was we were driving, instead of on a frozen lake a few minutes away from the track, we were driving on the Race of Champions track in a Polaris, which is a 4-wheel drive buggy. Well, 4-wheel drive, we'll get to that point in a moment, but basically we had some practice laps during the day around the Race of Champions track, just to make sure we learned the track, to make sure yeah, we sort of learned the car, because later that day we were going to be doing our assessment lap. Now, if you remember me earlier saying, that is worth half of the points possible to go to your score, which will allow you to A, get to the final, and B, compete in the Nations Cup for Team eROC. Terry Grant, who was, you know, sort of our mentor the whole time we were there, and he's such a legend. I cannot express how great a guy Terry is. Absolute pleasure to, you know, even talk to him and have his advice. Really massive privilege to, you know, have all of these things. And he was sort of just letting me know that you can just go even more aggressive. You know, just if it's 4-wheel drive, you're gonna have even more front end. Just push it. So he gave me a lot of confidence going into that assessment lap. So speaking of,
and this is how he got on in the real world. Pulling up towards the line. Best we've seen so far are 3s all around for Martin Palm for track positioning, car control and pace. And this is what Blakeley got up to. It is cold in Scotland, but nothing like this. And he's not from the sort of far north of Scotland, or so outside of Glasgow. As he comes through the outside sweeper. And then this run down towards the loop at the far end of the course. Ooh, a little wide there, not quite Baldwin wide. Lucas Blakeley's real-world experience consists of 20 minutes driving a Porsche at Silverstone. And that is it. Compared to James Baldwin, who's raced in British GT, Jarno Opmeer with 2 years of Formula Renault under his belt. Blakeley has, I mean, effectively 0 real-world driving experience. So this was quite the... he might use this line again later, but he used it yesterday, a baptism of snow. Rather amusing. That's him watching his lap. Neat and tidy. Doesn't look quite as deft, let's say, as Martin Palm. Got the back end out there quite nicely, under the bridge. And then on the power. And that was the lap from Lucas Blakeley.
3 wins so far on the sim, but what was the experience like actually out there on the track? Because I know you
and yeah, my idea now with the assessment lap, the worst thing to do is you know, I didn't want to shunt. You know, I didn't want to completely bin it and then get no lap time on the board. My idea was just do a clean lap. Make sure you know, don't underdrive, don't overdrive, just try and find a nice balance, don't, you know, do any stupid mistakes, drive the cleanest lap possible, and that's pretty much what I did. And I mean, yeah, it was very clean, not 100% attacked in some places, but I'm very happy with how the lap went because I was just glad I managed to get a lap on the board, and it was really, really an amazing experience to, you know, get to hustle a car. It was just you in that Polaris, on the track, on your own. What a privilege, you know, like just to get that experience to drive an actual car, buggy, whatever you want to call it, Polaris, on a track. You know, something I'd wanted to do my entire life. You know, that every single thing that whole week felt like I was building up to it my entire life, and it was just an immense privilege to get to do that. So, assessment lap was done. I was happy with how it went, and then yeah, that was it. That was that. Moving on to now Friday, which was eROC World Final Day. So basically, we know the assessment lap was done. That part's done. Now it was all on the sim. So basically, the format was you race, as I mentioned earlier, every driver twice, and you could get 2 points for winning, 1 point for losing, and those points would get combined with your assessment lap score and would determine whether you got into the top 2 to go to the final and compete in Nations Cup. So the first round I raced were against Jarno Opmeer. Managed to, I think I won both races, so got a maximum score of 4 out of 4 for the first 2 races. Then the next races were against James Baldwin, where I won 1, and then I lost another as I shunted coming off the bridge, but I think it would have been quite a close race without the mistake. But doesn't matter, we took the L on that one. So yeah, first 4 races were 3 wins, 1 loss, and then I got called up to have my assessment lap reviewed by none other than Peter Solberg, Oliver Solberg, and Terry Grant, and they had 3 different sections which each judge would judge, and you could get a maximum of 4 points for each, and those would make 12. That's half your points for the whole competition, really. So it was a massive moment. So they played the lap, the judges watched it, and then I will just play the footage.
Oliver Solberg, talk us through what Lucas achieved there in terms of car placement.
He's Scottish, so you have a big attack, which I liked. And no, the track positioning was nice. He did some proper lines to go offline to get a better exit. So I'll give him 4 points.
4 maximum score, amazing. So Petter, what about his car control?
Honestly, I was actually quite impressed because he attacked in the right corners. He was very clean. He's not like a normal Colin McRae style but kept a really good speed the whole way. So it looks clean, but with a big attack. So I think it's better than David Coulthard. I think no, but anyway, I actually give him 4 points, and it was quite impressive drive.
Going to be matched by the times. Terry.
Unfortunately, Lucas, you was very quick. 1:47, 4:28. It was an amazing lap time, really, for someone with no experience. I know you can't believe you're really here. Fantastic, mate. 4 points from me.
That's our first maximum score. A quick reaction from you. You look shocked.
Yeah, yeah, I'm speechless. Just thank you very much. Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to think of what to say, but yeah, I'm just as Terry said, I'm genuinely just grateful to be here in the first place. I mean, that's just first and foremost, and everything else just feels like a really very nice bonus after. So yeah.
Round of applause for Lucas Blakeley, and that should catapult him to the top of the standings, Jack.
Well, what a performance, Lucas Blakeley then.
So yeah, I mean, unbelievable experience just to have, first of all, these legends, judging your lap and giving feedback, and it doesn't feel, you're sort of like pinching yourself the whole time. I'd actually properly pinch myself to even, it's just, I don't know what to say. You can get what I mean. It's just, what a privilege to have, these guys assess your laps and to then score maximum points. Coming into that week with so little experience and not knowing how it was going to go, and then to do, I believe it was by only 200. So like, I'm not saying this is like as a brag, because it's absolutely not. But I think I had the quickest time out of on the assessment lap, by maybe 200ths of a second. So, these are just like the small wins. I say small wins, but these are like just really nice moments that I'll sort of treasure, and sort of gives you that reaffirms to yourself that that you can do it. You do have what it takes, and that was such a lovely moment to have that assessment lap reviewed as well by these legends. So, with that done, I scored 12 points maximum on the assessment lap, and I had just 2 more races to do against Martin Palm, and I won both, which meant I scored 23 out of 24 possible points in the point stage, which meant I was in the top 2 and going through the final of eROC, which also meant that the next day I would be competing in the Nations Cup alongside Jan Watmere, who was the other finalist in the Nations Cup. Is just incredible. Even saying that now is nuts. But so, time for the final now. It is Jan Watmere versus myself in 2 races, and it is based on aggregate time. So the fastest combined time over these 2 races would win eROC 2022 and become champion. So, first race gets underway. It was going quite smoothly until the second lap, where I had quite a massive swapper going into one of the hairpins, or the long winding left. It wasn't really a hairpin, but yeah, made a big mistake in the first race, and then lost to Jarno by, I think it was just a few hundreds of a second. So that mistake was very crucial. So I paid the price. I made the mistake. That's completely my fault. Now it's basically with the gap being that small, whoever won the next race would become eROC champion of 2022. So, started off quite well, made a small error missing them apex of one of the hairpins, but going into the second lap, I think I had, when you look at the actual timing split, I think I had a second advantage to Jarno going on to that second lap. So, all I had to do was bring it home, do the lap clean, and I would win eROC 2022. And that's exactly what I didn't do. I made a huge mistake, which was off camera. You guys never saw it on the feed, but I just never approached the lap correctly. It wasn't anything to do with pressure. The pressure is something that, you know, I've dealt with multiple times, but it was just a really stupid error, losing the rear end, losing so much time, and then I lost by just over 1/10 of a second. You know, I threw away the advantage I had, and therefore Jarno Opmeer was the champion of eROC, which, in 100% honesty, he was the man that deserved to win it most, because I had the pace. I think on the sim I was maybe the fastest driver, but at the end of the day, you can be as fast as you want. If you make the mistakes when it mattered like I did, you don't deserve to win. So at the end of the day, or at least I don't feel like I deserve to win, if that makes sense, you know. But basically, yeah, I made the mistakes, Jarno didn't, and therefore Jarno is the man that deserved to win. So congrats to Jarno on being eROC champion 2022, because, you know, he deserved it. He did the better job. It's as simple as that. You know, failure's not necessarily something to be you know, obviously you're very disappointed and really angry with yourself after, because you sort of, I felt like I threw it away. But at the end of the day, it's a lesson I'll take, you know. And yeah, I mean, it's just something you gotta, you know, it'll only make me stronger going to the future. So yeah, I finished second in eROC 2022, which, I mean, you're always focusing on the next thing. You're always focusing on winning and winning and winning and winning. But when, you know, you take a moment and you sort of look back at it, and then, you know, when I've now got my trophy here, but when you look at it and then you think, you know what, you still did pretty good, you know. I mean, just such an immense, you know, such an immense sort of experience just to even get to that point. But you're always looking to the next thing. But to sort of just take a moment and think of you know, how far, you know, you sort of came to get to that point, it's yeah, a massive, as the trophy bottom falls off, a massive privilege. So it is tomorrow, which would have been from Friday, it would have been Saturday. Jarno and myself were going to be competing in the Nations Cup against Sebastian Vettel and Mick Schumacher, aka Team Germany, who were, I think, according to the commentators, I think they were the most successful team in eROC history. So it was help. You know, we were going into that not thinking we were going to lose, because you can never think that, because if you think you're going to lose, you're going to lose. So, you know, you obviously knew what you were up against, so it was just trying to prepare yourself mentally, and yeah, just be in the best place possible. And I remember having dinner with, you know, all of the guys, and I would just want to take a moment as well to say a massive shout out to, you know, just everybody that was there for Team eROC. You know, James Baldwin, Jarno, Martin Palm, everybody that was there with us. You know, they made, you know, they made the week as good as it was. I know it's one of the best weeks I'll ever have in my life, just purely because I'm so grateful I got to spend it with some really good people. You know, everybody there was just so genuine. They were all supportive. You know, everyone expects as well, like, between the drivers, that there's going to be this super bitter rivalry. That's just not true. Obviously, when competition comes, you know, you want to win, but the second you're out of that seat, or out of the car, or out of the sim rig, it's just pure respect. And it is, you know, I can't express how, you know, how good, you know, these people are. I mean, they were all supportive, and everyone was we all wanted each other to do well. All we wanted to do was represent sim racing as best as possible, for all of you guys watching, really, all you fellow sim racers, or, you know, we wanted to do the community proud, and that's exactly what we just wanted to go out there and do. And we were all on the same team, you know, we were all supporting each other the whole way through. You know, even between practice, we were offering advice and talking to each other. It was such an open book experience, and I had such a good time spending, you know, the evenings with everyone, having dinner, whether it was over a few drinks. You know, by the end of the week, you know, it's just, we had such a great time. And I just want to take a moment to thank everyone that was there for making that week something I'll remember probably for the rest of my life. Just purely because I got to spend it with some really good people. So yeah, what a week. Now, going on to Saturday, race day. And going into it, Jarno and myself did not have any practice in the cars we were going to be driving that day. To give context as to why, we were meant to get practice in the Friday afternoon, but there was a ginormous snowstorm where it was undrivable. You couldn't see a thing, and the conditions were not great. And through the night, the half of the track actually flooded because the level of water rose. So on the Saturday morning, there was literally on Saturday morning, the track was cut in half. So instead of being side by side off the start, you are basically in pursuit of the other car. And it was, instead of getting practice in all of the cars for 3 laps, we would only get to drive 2 of the cars for 2 laps on a much shortened layout. So Jarno and myself were, we had even less practice than we needed the practice. We had never driven these cars. We were really wanting to, we needed the laps. And when we were told that the practice was effectively going to be cut down a lot for us, it was a bit of an anxious time in a sense, because you're like, we need practice. So we only got 2 laps practice, both in the RX2E, which is one of the cars we were going to race, and also in the Porsche Cayman GT4, which was very hard to drive. Both cars, we had 2 laps around the thing, and it was so difficult. It was absolutely, it was such a difficult experience. You only have 2 laps, so the first lap, you're getting to grips with things, learning the track a little bit in the other direction, learning the car. Then the second lap, you have to push a little bit harder, and that's it. That's all you've got. So, an immensely challenging period, but yeah, that was it. That was all the practice we got, and then we just had to head to the Nations Cup. So, now for the Nations Cup. Again, we were competing against Sebastian Vettel and Mick Schumacher, which is, they are fast. So it was very, it was a bit of a, we just wanted to go out there and do the best we could. So the first race I would compete in was in the RX2E, which I found was such a I was like I was struggling so much to put it together, and it was going to be such a challenge. So my first race was in that car against Sebastian Vettel. So on the way to the grid, I was just waiting in the car, and I remember just saying to myself, you've built your whole life up. I did speak to myself in the car, just like, you built up your whole life to this moment. Go out there, enjoy it, and give it everything. That's all I could really do. And yeah, I remember lining up against the grid, looking to the right, and you just see that helmet, that white helmet with the German stripes down it. It was just, yeah, what a moment in your life to be lining up about to race the Sebastian Vettel, and then later Mick Schumacher as well. Just unbelievable. And yeah, then the race happened.
So we are racing on a beach.
Next up, we move on to round 1B. So this is the first heat between Team Germany and the eROC All-Stars. So Sebastian Vettel is going to be facing Lucas Blakeley. Now, Lucas Blakeley, before this weekend, had driven a Porsche around Silverstone for 20 minutes, and that was the extent of his real-world driving experience. Sebastian Vettel has 4 Formula 1 World Championships. He's got 9 Race of Champion appearances. Lucas Blakeley finished 2nd yesterday on a simulator. So this is going to be really, really interesting. Vettel on the left, Blakeley on the right. The first heat in Team Germany versus the eROC drivers. Away they go. Pretty decent start actually from Blakeley. Vettel's in the grey with his iconic white helmet underneath.
So this is the RX2E car, which is the electric rallycross car that will be the headline spec vehicle for the World Rallycross Championship this season. Very good car control there from Lucas Blakeley.
He impressed the judges yesterday when he was out in the Polaris, swings the back end around. There goes Vettel meanwhile. Blakeley's looking comfortable enough out there. Won't have had a huge amount of practice.
could we see our first upset of the weekend before we even get to the quarterfinals, Jack?
It would be quite remarkable, wouldn't it? Here comes Vettel, just dabbing on the brakes. Here is Lucas Blakeley, the Scottish driver from just outside of Glasgow. Finished third in the F1 Esports Championship last year. Here comes Vettel over the hill towards the line. Oh, it's tight.
Wow.
And it's Blakeley. It's Lucas Blakeley by 0.08 of a second quicker than Sebastian Vettel. What a remarkable performance from Lucas Blakeley. So tight.
And considering the fact that Sebastian Vettel and Team Germany have been the most successful team in the Rock Nations Cup in history, that is a huge upset this early in the weekend.
Got a really good start, did Blakeley.
And it didn't finish there. I mean,
No.
He brought it all the way to the end. Wow.
You can see him. The spectacled esports driver, now in a real car. He impressed the judges in his real world competition yesterday. The likes of Petter Solberg and Oliver Solberg. And that's how close it was at the checkered flag.
He even took the checkered flag sideways. Very impressive by Lucas Blakeley. He can't quite believe it.
He can't,
Is it me?
Yeah.
Is it me?
He can't quite believe his whole weekend, Lucas Blakeley. He's having the time of his life.
So, we somehow managed to beat Sebastian Vettel. And saying that now, I mean, I'm genuinely like thinking out what to say. Like, to this day, on the Thursday after the week of Race of Champions, none of that feels real. It doesn't feel like it's possible. I don't have the words. It doesn't feel possible. We managed to win. I don't have the words. I genuinely don't have the words. So, yeah, unbelievable experience. I remember crossing the line and coming out the last corner. I was right up against the snow. I seen Seb coming down the top of the hill, coming out the last corner, and I just pinned it. I had to go for it. And then I was up against the snow with the rear. Literally, I've got a video that I'll play now. Like, I was up against the snow, literally pushing the limit, almost in the wall. And then when I crossed the line, I had no idea who won because I knew it was close. I had no idea who got to the line first. And all the way back round to the pit, I had no idea. I just saw everybody clapping all the way along the side railings and on the grandstand. Everyone was clapping. But I didn't know if they were clapping because they were happy it was close, or that I did a good job, or I'd won. I had no idea which one of these things I was getting applauded for. And I arrived back at the pits, park the car, get out the car, and Terry Grant comes up to me and just said, "You just beat Sebastian Vettel." And that was the first point I knew what we just achieved. And I'll remember that moment for the rest of my life. I'll remember that lap for the rest of my life. It was such a my whole life built to that point, and then just to do something like that and just to represent sim racing for you guys, and then after, even to see the reaction on my phone and to have so many messages, so much heartwarming support, it was I don't have the words for it, I really don't. But yeah, I just want to say a huge thank you for everyone that supported me through that, because it was one of the most immensely surreal experiences I will ever have in my life, and to this day it doesn't even feel remotely real. So thank you for making that something that I'll remember forever. And then after that, we had to race Mick Schumacher in the Polaris, and I got destroyed. I will not lie, I got destroyed by Mick. I think if I was to do the lap again, I would go quite a few seconds faster, because I was like 3.6 seconds off, but I am pretty confident I would have been a lot closer, because jumping from the RX2E into the Polaris, and I didn't drive the Polaris that day on that track, so I didn't know sort of how to approach it or how hard I should push, because again, I should have pushed the Polaris much harder. If I done that, and I made quite a big mistake in the last corner as well, so if I didn't do these things and I did a few things differently, I think I would have been maybe only 1 to 2 seconds off, like in between that range. But yeah, I can sit here and talk about it now, but at the end of the day, I think the highlight was just being able to represent sim racing as best as possible. And also massive shout out to Jarno as well, he done fantastic in his races as well. You know, sadly we generally like we just got, but yeah, just massive shout out to Jarno because he killed it the whole time he was there, and he gave it. I think, you know, we all just tried to represent sim racing the best we could, and I hope we did that for you guys. So sadly we did get knocked out by Team Germany, but I think regardless of that fact, we were just absolutely stoked we managed to do what we did. And it was just such an immense experience, and something I'll remember. I think we'll all remember that week for the rest of our life. And I remember, you know, just having people come up to me to congratulate me, and I did manage to speak to Mick and Seb after. I spoke to Mick shortly after the races, wished him best of luck, and I did get to speak to Seb a few hours later, because I never got the chance to speak to him because everyone was just circulating. Trying to speak to people was just so difficult, but yeah, got the chance to speak to Seb. I just wished him the best of luck, congratulated him on, you know, beating us in that first round against you know, Team eROC. And yeah, Seb is just, you know, as such a nice guy as you see him. You know, he is just such a top person, and man, I mean, he's just a legend. I mean, I don't know what else to say. He is just such a nice person. And we shared a fist bump because I was speaking to him as he was waiting to go in a passenger lap. You know, he was just so excited to go in into this you know, into this little passenger lap. So just an immense experience to even be able to walk amongst these legends. I mean, I spoke to so many phenomenal people, these immense racing legends that you got to walk amongst this entire time. That entire week you were walking amongst these absolute legends, and it was just such a surreal experience between, you know, getting to speak to, I mean, this is just to name a few, but you mean speaking to Seb, speaking to Mick, you know, talking to Mika Hakkinen, having a hand, as I'm starting to get messages now. But yeah, getting to speak to, I mean, also having a hand, David Coulthard, giving me, you know, a really firm handshake as well after the Nations Cup. I mean, what an experience. I mean, also Frederick, the president of ROC, just so many insane experiences that someone who, you know, at one point back in 2015, I never thought I would ever get to do racing again in any form, and then to be at the Race of Champions to do something like that and have that experience that whole week was something that I don't think I can share how insane that experience was to all of you. And yeah, I'm gonna start running out of words now, because I mean, it's just hard to sum up how emotional that whole week was. I mean, that was just such an insane experience. And yeah, and then Sunday we got to watch the Race of Champions, and then yeah, we just celebrated and had a great time for the rest of the weekend before flying home on Monday. And I mean, yeah, I created so many memories with some amazing people that I'll remember for the rest of my life. And yeah, just what a week. Thank you as well to everybody who supported me all the way. And yeah, I'm running out of words, so I think I'm going to wrap this video up. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you so much for listening to me waffle for however God knows long this video is going to be. But yeah, just such an insane experience. I hope you enjoyed hearing hearing me talk about it. And yeah, thank you so much for everything. Honestly, I hope we all did you proud. I just hope we did you proud. And yeah, until next time, stay positive, stay happy. I love you all, and catch you guys next time. Ciao.